Can I ask you something honest? When was the last time you were truly relaxed, not just sitting still, not just taking a break, but actually at peace inside? For a lot of Gen X adults, that question lands harder than expected. Because even in quiet moments, even when the bills are paid, the house is still, and nothing appears to be wrong, something inside you is still awake, still listening, still tracking, still preparing. You call it being practical, you call it being responsible, you call it staying ready. But what if that constant alertness is not just maturity? What if it is memory? What if the reason you never fully exhale is not because you were born tense, but because your life trained you to live that way? Today, we are going into the hidden psychology behind Gen X calm, why the most self-sufficient generation can look perfectly fine while carrying a private state of emergency, and what that silent burden has been costing you for years. Because Gen X has a very specific kind of calm. It is not soft calm, it is not carefree calm, it is the calm of someone who knows how fast things can change, the calm of someone who has already imagined the worst-case scenario before the meeting starts, before the phone rings, before the doctor calls back, before the economy shifts, before the relationship gets weird, before the good thing has time to become permanent. That is why Gen X can walk into a room smiling, make a joke, sit down like everything is normal, and at the very same time be unconsciously scanning the exits, reading the mood, estimating the risk, and preparing for disappointment. Not because they want drama, because drama arrived early enough that their nervous system stopped waiting to be surprised by it. That pattern did not start in adulthood. It started in childhood, in the ordinary-looking scenes that never looked dramatic enough to be called formative. A kid lets themselves into an empty house. A backpack hits the floor. The television turns on. A frozen dinner goes into the oven. No one asks how the day went. No one notices the tone in the answer. No one explains the tension in the house. No one says, "You do not have to handle this alone." Gen X was raised in an era that praised independence early, sometimes way too early. And yes, that independence created competence. It created humor, grit, adaptability, problem-solving, and the ability to function under pressure. But it also taught a quieter lesson. If something goes wrong, deal with it yourself. If something hurts, do not make a scene. If something feels uncertain, get ahead of it before it gets ahead of you. That is not just personality, that is training. And it was not only the home environment, it was the atmosphere. Gen X grew up with background dread humming through everyday life. Cold War anxiety, nuclear fear, recession headlines, rising divorce rates, layoffs, addiction, crime panic, stranger danger, the AIDS crisis, adults who were stressed, distracted, or emotionally unavailable. Even when they loved you, the wider culture did not exactly whisper safety. It whispered instability. It said in 100 different ways, do not get too comfortable. Things can fall apart, sometimes suddenly, sometimes quietly, sometimes right in front of you while everyone keeps pretending it is under control. So Gen X adapted the only way intelligent children ever adapt. They normalized tension. They turned alertness into identity. They learned to look unbothered while carrying a private readiness for impact. That is why so many Gen X adults get misread. Other people look at you and see composure. They see someone capable, efficient, low maintenance, impossible to shock. The one who stays level while everyone else spirals. The one who handles the paperwork, the crisis, the awkward conversation, the emergency room visit, the family mess. The job change, the broken appliance, the parent who needs help, the kid who needs money, the partner who is unraveling. You became that person because somewhere along the line, being the stable one felt safer than being the one with needs. And at first, that works. It feels powerful. It feels dignified. It feels like strength, until one day you realize your calm is not always peace. Sometimes it is containment. Sometimes it is emotional compression. Sometimes it is just fear, taught to sit still and keep functioning. And that is where the real cost shows up, because the body does not care what name you give it. You can call it responsibility, but if your shoulders are always tight, your sleep is always light, your patience is gone by PM, and your chest tightens every time your phone buzzes late at night, your body knows the truth. It knows. You are not resting. You are monitoring. You are not relaxing. You are standing down just enough to stay useful. There is a huge difference. A lot of Gen X adults are not simply tired. They are fatigued in a deeper way. They are tired of bracing, tired of thinking 3 steps ahead, tired of quietly being the one who notices everything, carries everything, anticipates everything, and then tells themselves it is fine because this is just what adults do. But this is not just adulthood. This is what happens when a whole generation gets praised for coping so well that nobody asks what coping is costing them. And the most deceptive part is this. You may not even notice you are doing it anymore. That is how deeply it settles in. You think this is just how you are. Of course you keep backup plans. Of course you mistrust calm. Of course you assume the good stretch will end. Of course you check the tone of every text. Of course you mentally rehearse how you would survive a job loss, a diagnosis, a betrayal, a market crash, a family emergency. That is not anxiety, you tell yourself. That is wisdom. But wisdom helps you respond when something happens. Hypervigilance makes you live inside the shadow of things that have not happened yet. Wisdom leaves room for joy. Hypervigilance interrupts joy halfway through and whispers, "Do not get used to this." Wisdom keeps you ready. Hypervigilance keeps you from ever feeling safe enough to put the armor down. That armor shows up in relationships too, and this is where the story gets painfully quiet, because Gen X often loves through competence, through loyalty, through showing up, through fixing, through providing, through carrying the bag, paying the bill, making the call, handling the fallout. But being emotionally seen, truly seen, can feel harder, not because you do not care, because once you learned that depending on people could hurt, usefulness became safer than vulnerability. Better to be the reliable one than the exposed one. Better to say, "I've got it," than to admit, "I'm overwhelmed." Better to make a joke than to say, "This actually scares me." That is why some Gen X adults can spend years being deeply loved and still feel strangely alone. Not abandoned, not unloved, just unseen in the exact place where they most need softness, because they became so good at hiding the part of themselves that still expects the ground to move. And yet there is a strange twist to all this. Put Gen X in a real crisis, and many of them come alive. Not emotionally alive, but operationally alive. Focused, clear, effective. The room gets chaotic, and suddenly the calm makes sense. While everyone else is panicking, you are making the list, grabbing the flashlight, calling the right person, asking the necessary question, doing what must be done. People look at that and think, wow, nothing shakes them. But the truth is more complicated. Crisis feels familiar. Crisis matches the internal weather you have been carrying for years. When something is actually wrong, your nervous system finally gets confirmation that it was not overreacting all along. That is why peace can sometimes feel more uncomfortable than chaos. Chaos gives your readiness a purpose. Peace asks you to trust what you were trained not to trust. But here is the part nobody tells Gen X often enough. The strategies that protected you are not supposed to imprison you. Readiness helped you survive. It helped you become capable, sharp, resilient, darkly, funny, resourceful, impossible to completely knock down. That matters, that deserves respect. But there comes a point when the same alertness that once kept you safe begins stealing things from you. It steals ease. It steals presence. It steals softness. It steals your ability to sit in a good moment without scanning for the catch. It steals intimacy by convincing you that letting people all the way in is too risky. It steals rest by making calm feel suspicious. You start living like a soldier long after the battlefield has changed, and eventually the question is no longer whether the armor works. The question is whether you still know who you are without it. So what do you do with that? First, you stop romanticizing exhaustion. You stop calling it just how I am when part of you knows it is older than that. You stop confusing constant tension with depth or self-erasure with strength. You begin noticing the moments when your body is acting like danger is present when it is not. The late night phone call, the unopened email, the silence after an argument, the unexpected expense, the good week that somehow makes you more nervous instead of less. You start observing the reflex without immediately obeying it. That matters because what you can observe, you can interrupt, and what you can interrupt, you no longer have to worship as identity. Then, slowly, you practice something that may feel almost unnatural at first. You allow safe moments to be safe moments, not forever, not perfectly, just for one full breath longer than usual. You enjoy the meal before anticipating the bill. You let the compliment land before explaining it away. You receive help without immediately trying to repay it. You let someone ask how you are, and instead of saying fine on autopilot, you answer like a person who no longer has to earn connection through invincibility. These are small changes, but for a generation raised on self-containment, they are radical, because every time you do that, you teach your body a new truth. You teach it that peace is not a trick, that calm is not always the silence before impact, that support is not weakness, that rest is not negligence, that breathing all the way out does not mean you are failing to pay attention. And maybe that is the real emotional story here. Gen X did not become calm because life felt safe. Gen X became calm because panic was never useful, help was never guaranteed, and adaptation had to happen fast. That calm was brilliant. It was survival. It was intelligence under pressure. But if you have spent your whole life being the one who handles it, the one who does not break, the one who stays dry-eyed and competent while everybody else comes undone, then maybe the next act of strength is not handling more. Maybe it is learning, carefully, honestly, without shame, that you do not have to stay braced forever. Maybe peace is not something you missed your chance to feel. Maybe it is something you were never taught to trust. So if this feels uncomfortably familiar, if you are realizing that your version of calm may have been a lifelong form of readiness, then let this be the moment you stop misreading yourself. You are not weak for being tired. You are not dramatic for feeling the weight of something that has been with you for decades. You are not broken. Because your body learned to expect impact. You adapted exactly the way many intelligent, resilient people adapt when life teaches them early that the floor is not always stable. But you are allowed to outgrow survival mode. You are allowed to question the old alarm. You are allowed to ask whether this level of vigilance is still protecting you or whether it is now the very thing keeping you from feeling fully alive. You have been ready for disaster long enough. The deeper challenge now is learning what it means to be ready for peace.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ गए जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं कहाँ जाऊं कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू मेरी रूह का मका तू लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था वफा की इस कहानी में सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।